The year is 1962, and the setting is the sun-drenched countryside of Emilia-Romagna in Italy. The air smells of burnt rubber and expensive oil. On the side of the road sits a car that is widely considered the most beautiful machine ever made. It is a Ferrari 250 GT. It is sleek and red, and it screams power and wealth. But right now it is silent. Smoke is pouring out from under the hood. Behind the wheel is a man who is not used to silence. His name is Ferruccio Lamborghini. He is 46 years old, and he is not a race car driver. He is a mechanic, a businessman, an industrialist. He's a man who built a fortune from the mud up. After World War II, he took leftover military hardware and converted it into tractors. He gave the farmers of Italy the machines they needed to rebuild their country, and he became filthy rich doing it. Ferruccio Lamborghini was a man who loved machines. He loved them so much that he bought the best ones money could buy. He owned Jaguars. He owned Mercedes. He owned Maseratis. And of course he owned Ferraris. He had 3 of them, but there was a problem. He loved the look of the Ferrari, and he loved the sound of the engine, but he hated the way it drove. He felt it was too rough. It was too loud. The interior was too Spartan. It was a race car with a license plate, not a luxury vehicle for a gentleman. But the biggest problem was the clutch. Every time Ferruccio drove his Ferrari the way he wanted to drive it, the clutch would burn out. It would slip and grind and fail. He had to take it back to the factory in Maranello over and over again. Each time the mechanics would fix it in secret and charge him a fortune and send him on his way. And a few weeks later it would break again. Ferruccio was tired of this. He was a mechanic himself. He knew engines better than anyone. So one afternoon he decided he would not take the car back to the factory. He would fix it himself. He drove the Ferrari into his own tractor factory in Cento. He told his head mechanic to drop the transmission and take the clutch apart. When they opened up the most expensive sports car in the world, they were shocked by what they found. Ferruccio looked at the broken clutch component in his hand and realized he had seen it before. He walked over to the shelf in his warehouse where they kept the spare parts for his tractors. He pulled down a clutch for a small Lamborghini tractor. He compared the 2 parts. They were identical. The clutch in his luxury Ferrari was the exact same commercial component used in his farm equipment. The only difference was that Ferrari charged 10 times the price for it. Ferruccio was furious. He felt cheated. He felt disrespected. He was a proud man, and he did not like being taken for a fool. He decided right then and there that he was going to have a word with the man in charge. He was going to drive to Maranello, and he was going to tell Enzo Ferrari exactly what he thought of his engineering. This was not a small decision. In Italy in the 1960s, Enzo Ferrari was not just a car maker, he was a god. He was known as Il Commendatore. He was arrogant and distant and terrifying. He ruled his company like a dictator. He did not care about his customers. He only cared about his race team. To him, the road cars were just a way to make money to pay for the racing. If you didn't like the car, that was your problem, not his. Ferruccio Lamborghini drove to the Ferrari headquarters. He demanded a meeting. Because he was a wealthy industrialist and a prominent figure in the region, the secretaries allowed him in. He walked into Enzo Ferrari's office. Enzo was sitting there wearing his dark sunglasses indoors, which he always did to intimidate people. Ferruccio did not back down. He slammed the tractor clutch on the table. He looked Enzo in the eye and told him his cars were junk. He told him that he was using cheap parts and charging premium prices. He told him exactly how to fix the problem to make the car reliable. Enzo Ferrari paused. He looked at this man standing in his office. He saw a short, stocky man with dirt under his fingernails. He did not see a peer. He saw a peasant, a farmer. Enzo leaned back in his chair and delivered the insult that would change the history of the automotive world forever. He said, "Lamborghini, you may be able to drive a tractor, but you will never be able to handle a Ferrari properly. The problem is not with the car. The problem is the driver. Now go back to your farm and leave the sports cars to me." The room went silent. It was a dismissal. It was a slap in the face. Enzo Ferrari thought he had just crushed a nuisance. He thought the tractor man would go home with his tail between his legs. He was wrong. Ferruccio walked out of that office, but he did not go back to his tractors. He went home with a cold, burning rage in his chest. He gathered his family at the dinner table that night and made an announcement. He said, "I am going to build a car. And it will not just be a car. It will be better than a Ferrari in every single way. It will be faster. It will be more reliable. It will be more luxurious. And it will beat Enzo Ferrari at his own game." His family thought he was crazy. His bankers thought he was losing his mind. You do not just decide to build a sports car company from scratch. It takes millions of dollars. It takes decades of engineering experience. Ferrari had a head start of 20 years. They had the racing pedigree. They had the brand. Lamborghini had nothing but a factory full of tractor parts and a massive ego. But Ferruccio was smart. He knew that to beat the best he had to hire the best. And he knew exactly where to find them. A few months prior, Enzo Ferrari had fired his entire engineering team in a fit of rage known as the Palace Revolt. Ferruccio Lamborghini went to those unemployed engineers and hired them. He hired Giotto Bizzarrini, who was the man who had designed the Ferrari 250 GTO, the very engine that Ferruccio loved. Ferruccio gave Bizzarrini a simple instruction. I want a V12 engine, but I do not want a race engine that screams and brakes. I want the perfect engine for the road. He bought a large plot of land in Sant'Agata Bolognese, just a few miles away from the Ferrari factory. This was a deliberate move. He wanted Enzo to see him coming. He built a state-of-the-art factory. It was bright and clean and modern, unlike the dark and old-fashioned workshops of Ferrari. The pressure was immense. Ferruccio wanted to reveal his first car at the Turin Auto Show in 1963. He had only a few months to design and build a car from zero. The team worked day and night. They slept on the factory floor. They fueled themselves on espresso and cigarettes and the desire for revenge. They built the Lamborghini 350 GTV. It was beautiful. It was sleek. But there was a major problem. When they tried to fit the massive V12 engine into the body of the car, just days before the show, it did not fit. The engine was too tall. The hood would not close. Panic set in. The show was days away. They could not redesign the car in time. So Ferruccio made a decision that showed his showmanship. He said, put the engine on a stand next to the car. Fill the engine bay of the car with bricks to weigh it down so it sits at the right height, and keep the hood closed. They went to the auto show. The car looked stunning. The journalists loved it. They asked to see the engine inside the car. Ferruccio smiled and told them that the hood was sealed because the mechanics had lost the key. He lied to everyone, but the lie worked. The orders started coming in. Lamborghini was officially in business, but Ferruccio was not satisfied with just making a good car. He wanted to make a legend. He wanted to make something that would make Enzo Ferrari look old and obsolete. In 1965, his young engineers came to him with a radical idea. At the time, all sports cars had the engine in the front. That is how it was done. Only race cars had the engine in the middle behind the driver. The engineers told Ferruccio that they wanted to put a massive V12 engine sideways in the middle of a road car. Ferruccio was skeptical. He thought it was too dangerous, too loud. But he gave them the green light. He told them to build it. They worked in secret at night. They called the project the P400. When the chassis was finished, they knew they had something special, but they needed a body that was equally radical. They went to the design house Bertone, and a young genius designer named Marcello Gandini drew a shape that looked like it had landed from outer space. It was low and wide and aggressive. It looked like a predator. Ferruccio needed a name for this new beast. He was a Taurus by birth sign, and he had a fascination with bullfighting. He visited a ranch in Spain owned by a man named Don Eduardo Miura, who bred the fiercest fighting bulls in the world. Ferruccio was so impressed by these animals that he decided to name the car after them. He called it the Miura. When the Lamborghini Miura was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in 1966, the world stopped. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. It was the first true supercar. Before the Miura, there were just sports cars. After the Miura, there were supercars. It had eyelashes around the headlights. It had a top speed of 170 miles per hour. It was dangerous and sexy and terrifying. And the most important thing was that it made every single Ferrari look like an antique. Enzo Ferrari was a man who valued tradition. He believed that the horse pulls the carriage, so the engine must be in the front. The Miura proved him wrong. The Miura proved that the future was mid-engined. The tractor mechanic had not just copied Ferrari, he had outsmarted him. The rich and famous flocked to Lamborghini. Frank Sinatra bought one. The Shah of Iran bought one. Miles Davis crashed one. If you were a rock star or a king, you didn't drive a Ferrari anymore. You drove a Lamborghini. Ferruccio had won. He had proven his point. He had taken the insult that was thrown at him in Maranello, and he had turned it into a global empire. He ran the company for 10 years, creating masterpiece after masterpiece. And then, having satisfied his ego and his ambition, he sold the company and retired to a vineyard to make wine. He never reconciled with Enzo Ferrari. They remained rivals until the end. But in a strange twist of fate, Ferruccio Lamborghini did more for Ferrari than anyone else. By challenging him, he forced Ferrari to be better. He forced Ferrari to innovate. Without the pressure from the tractor mechanic, Ferrari might have become lazy and irrelevant. Today, the rivalry continues. If you go to a racetrack or a casino or a luxury hotel anywhere in the world, you will see the prancing horse and the raging bull parked next to each other. They are two sides of the same coin, one born from racing pedigree and tradition, the other born from pure spite and the refusal to accept an insult. It serves as a reminder to everyone who holds power, be careful who you insult. Be careful who you dismiss as a nobody. Because that mechanic you yell at today might be the man who builds the machine that destroys you tomorrow. I am Alex, and you have been watching The Untold Path. If you want more hidden history and deeper truth, subscribe to the channel. Your support powers every episode.